Okay, so today we're going to solve more problems. Do you guys have the lesson? You don't. Probably need to, don't you? Yeah. Okay. So, let's start with the first question. So the profit of a chocolate bar can be modeled by the equation P equals negative 0.3 n minus 7 squared plus 10.8, where P is the profit, bless you, in thousands of dollars, and N is the number of chocolates sold in thousands. So these are very important things that we need to know. Profit is these are things that you need to read. You need to make sure that you know what each letter represents and in what unit or in what quantity. Okay? And N is the number of chocolates sold in thousands. The question is, what is the coordinates of the vertex? And explain what it represents. First thing that you have to ask yourself, you have to look at your equation, which is P equals negative 0.3 n minus 7 squared plus 10.8. And then you're going to ask yourself the question, what form is it in? It's the vertex. Why is it important to know what form it's in?
So then we can get some key points.
Okay, because what? So the vertex form gives me what key point? The vertex, axis of symmetry, and optimal value, which all relate to the vertex, right? Good. So it's in vertex form, so my job is easy. What's my vertex?
7.
Plus
Uh-huh.
7
And
plus
10.8.
10.8. Good. So that's your vertex. Now I want you to picture this one. It's a quadratic function. Which way does it open?
It's like down, open down.
Open down. So it's gonna go like this, and it's gonna go down. Right? We're talking about P, which is the profit. N is the number of chocolate. Imagine it with me. Close your eyes if you want, and imagine. What is that vertex represent? What do these numbers, the 7 and the 10.8, represent in terms of that question?
7's K.
7 is what?
K.
There's no K in that.
Or whatever. Or sorry, age.
The highest one.
Optimum value is the
So 7 and 10.8, they have to represent. One of them have to represent the number of chocolate, and the other one have to represent
The 7 is representing the highest price that is sold. Then
so yeah, X, Y, X is 10.
7 represents how many chocolates are being sold, and the 10.8 is the profit.
Because you're always imagining this, right? You're always looking at this as Y and X, right? So if I'm going to graph this, what's gonna go where? Right on the Y-axis, I'm gonna have the profit. And on the X-axis, I'm gonna have the number of chocolates, right? Which is N. Now this is gonna look like this, right? It doesn't have to be at the 0, 0, but it's gonna look like this, right? And this is going to be your vertex. You told me that your vertex is 7, 10.8, right? 7 represents the number of chocolate, and 10.8 represents the profit. So that means, remember that the N is in thousands and the profit is in thousands. So that means the maximum profit that you can make is what? 10,800. That's the maximum profit you can make. Because the maximum P is 10.8. So which is 10,800. How many chocolate bars do you have to sell to get that profit?
7.
7 what?
7.
7.
Yeah.
Okay? Do you guys understand that? Can you picture it?
Mhm.
Can you put it all together now? Okay, so let's answer the question. So the vertex is, when you're writing the vertex, you have to write exactly the same way. So 7 and 10.8. You don't put 7,000 and 10,800, okay? Because when you're graphing it at 7 and 10.8. You okay? Okay. So, explain what it represents. So for 7,000, chocolate sold, the profit is $10,000. Now, second question is asking you, what is the y-intercept? In other words, in this case, it's going to be the p-intercept because I'm calling my y-axis p. What is the y-intercept? What do you do? Don't look at my graph. My graph is not correct.
Okay, so the y-intercept is.
How do I find the y-intercept?
Yeah, 10.8.
Do the standard form.
Put it in standard form. That's one way you can do it. Okay? Put it in if I put it in standard form, right? What value would be my y-intercept? What? C.
C, yeah.
Right? So if you put it in standard form, and what do I have to do to put it in standard form? What process?
So yeah, we.
Void, right? I have to expand.
Void, yeah, expand.
So that's one way. Can you give me another way? Think about what the y-intercept means, right? So if I'm just gonna grab another one. So if I have something that looks like this, the y-intercept is where what? So what's the value of x at the y-intercept? 0. So another thing that you can do is plug in 0 for n, right? And then just solve it and do it. So that's the easier way, okay? I like that way too. Plug in 0 for n. So it's just a punch in the calculator, okay? If you guys can't remember this, look here. So to find the y-intercept, plug 0 for x. Can't be any clearer than that. Okay? Don't take a picture of me.
No, you're not in the picture.
Okay, so easy. Or put it in standard form. Okay? So I'm going to do both. I'm going to show you that actually the second one is much easier, but I'm going to do both because we have to learn today. Okay, so let's put it in standard form first. So I have to FOIL. So n times n is n squared. N times -7 is -7n. -7 times n is -7n. And then plus 49 plus 10.8. Distribute the -0.3 in. Can you guys do me a favor and multiply 7 times 0.3? Should be 2.1. Yep. 10. And then now I collect like terms. So what is my profit if I sell 0 chocolate?
3.9. Oh.
Don't I have to make the chocolate though? I have to make them, but I sold 0.
You don't have to make it else.
Well, in order for you to sell them, you have to make them.
Yeah.
But sometimes you make things, but you don't sell them.
Yeah, so.
Okay? So if you don't sell, if you sell 0 chocolate, what is your profit?
Negative.
It's a loss. What is it?
Negative.
That's right. This right here is your loss. Why is it a loss?
Negative.
Because it's negative. Okay? So you're putting from your own pocket. Okay? So, explain what it represents. So, for selling zero chocolate bars, you make a profit of negative $3,900. So it's a loss of this much money, right? Are you getting that?
Can you please?
Repeat what? So, since your profit is a negative 3,900,
Okay.
it's like you put this much money from your own pocket.
Oh, okay.
Right?
So you lost.
So you lost the $3,900,
Oh, okay,
right? It's a
okay,
loss.
okay.
That's why we
Okay.
call it a loss. Okay? Now,
So the profit, we don't have profit in this case. We lost.
no, you have a loss.
We have a lost profit. Okay.
So I'm going to show you another way that you can do this. So as I said, if you're looking for the y-intercept, you can plug in 0 for x. Right? If I plug in 0 for x, or for p in this case, for n, sorry. So 0 minus 7 is negative 7. Negative 7 squared is 49. Right? If I do this, I should be getting negative 14.7 plus 10.8. And my answer is negative 3.9. Is that the same answer I got for the profit? Yeah. Okay? So, you either put it in standard form, or you can just plug in 0 for x and solve for y.
Just like this, the one in the red, yeah?
Yeah. Unless I specifically say you have to put it in standard form, then you don't have to. But it's good to know both ways. So if you're stuck in one way, you know the other. And plus, you do need the standard form for the next question. So it's not a loss. them. The next question is asking you, what are the zeros? Explain what they represent. I am looking for the zeros. What form gives me the zeros? Factor. Right? In order to get to factored form, I have to start from the standard. I have no other choice. I can't go from vertex to factored right away. I have to start with the standard form. Okay? So this is your standard. Now, let's look at this. How can I factor this?
Yeah, the one in the green sheet.
What's the first step? What do you have to ask yourself? Do I have a GCF? Do I? Negative 0.3. Negative.
Negative 0.3.
So factor out the negative 0.3. Remember, most likely, if you're factored and you have to factor, for you guys, not for you, Eric, but for the rest of you, your GCF is going to be whatever A is. Yeah, most of the time.
So the GCF, wherever A is, that's it.
Most of the time, I'm gonna repeat myself because sometimes if you can't continue with the factoring, then they. But first thing, try always your A. So I divided each one by negative 0.3. I should get 14 hen, right? And then plus 15. You know what? I'm just gonna erase this. The important part here is to know you're factoring out a negative 0.3, not a positive negative. And when you divide positive 4.2 by negative 0.3, you're going to end up with a negative. When you divide negative 3.9 by negative 0.3, you're going to end up with a positive. So now, what am I looking for?
Something that multiplies to 13.
Yeah, multiply 13.
And adds to 14.
Negative
Or
14.
negative 14.
Yeah. So, B is negative, C is positive. B is negative, C is positive. That means both are negative. So give me two numbers that multiply to 13.
1, 2, 3.
These are your only options, negative 1 and negative 13. Do they add to 14?
Yeah.
Negative 14, my
Yeah.
apologies. Yeah. So, done. I can right away factor, so that's n minus 1 and n minus 13. So the question is asking you for your zeros. What are your zeros?
And 1 minus 1,
One
and then
and
1.
13.
1, and the other one is
Positive
13.
1, positive 13.
Okay? So, I'm gonna now kind of sketch it for you, so you can put it all together. Okay? So if you look here, I'm gonna do, so at 1 and at 13, at 7, this is how your function looks like. So, this is your vertex, right? At 7 and 10.8. Your y-intercept is at negative 3.9. And your two zeros are 1 and 13. Graph. Okay? My graph looks ugly, but it should look nice and smooth if I actually put it. If I actually follow the right scheme. Who's okay with this? Hands. After what?
After the pretty much we use the three steps.
We use the three forms,
together.
exactly. Vertex, factored, and standard. We use all of them. And this is what I'm trying to tell you. Put it all together. Do that mind map where it just kind of cross everything. Right? I wish I can do one for you. I have no time for it. Okay, so when you're solving word problems, first try to draw a sketch just to visualize it. Remember what I told you the first thing? Close your eyes, imagine, right? Just think about how it might look like, okay? Ask yourself the question, is it gonna open up, is it gonna open down? These things that you know, right? Consider how key features relate to the context of the problem. So always, they're not gonna ask you what is your y-intercept. They're gonna ask you what's your initial point, or what is your initial profit, or something like that, where it's not gonna be what is your y-intercept. They're not gonna ask you that. Okay? So initial point means the y-intercept. You need to know these key features, key points, what they mean, so you know what you're looking for. Now, just need your attention for a minute. I want to go back to this question because I want to ask you a very important question. Remember that your profit is the y and your number of chocolate is the x. Okay? How much money are you profiting if you sell one chocolate bar? Or 1,000 chocolate bar in this case? What's your profit? So if you're selling 1,000 chocolate bar, what is your profit? 0. If you're selling 13,000 chocolate bar, what is your profit? 0. What do we call a profit of 0 in regular business, like in business?
So they just made that much money that they spent on the chocolate.
That's right. So they spend the money, they made the money, we break even. Okay? So we're tied. If you guys play hockey or if you know anything about like sports, it's a tie, right? We're breaking even. Okay? So the money that I put from my pocket, I got back. There's a break even. Okay? So always when the question is asking you what is your break even point, they're asking you for your zeros. Okay? So if it's asking you for your maximum minimum profit or distance or height, right? It's asking you for the optimal value actually, part of your vertex. So they're asking you for your maximum profit, right? They're not asking you for the vertex, they're asking you for how much profit did you make. So in this case, it's $10,800, right? They don't care about the 7,000. Now, the second part is the point at which your max or min occur, which means it's the x value of the vertex, right? So it's your axis of symmetry, okay? Now put these two together, it will give you what? The vertex. So these two together will give you the vertex, right? This is the y value of the vertex. y value of the vertex, and this is